Hello, everyone. I'm Christine Gritmon, and welcome to Let's Talk About Brand. I do this show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. British time. There's a whole bunch of time zones. In fact, let me know what time zone you're joining us from. I do this show every single Friday talking to very smart guests about different elements of branding. And today is exciting because I have a local friend guesting, my friend Rob Genovesi, and he runs a company, a branding agency actually, called Unleash Your Beast Brand. Woo! So we're going to talk about what that means, and he specifically works on branding for service-based companies. So we're going to talk about what that means as well. We had a great conversation about this over on Twitter. On Tuesday, I have a weekly Twitter chat called Chat About Brand, which is, again, noon Eastern Time on Tuesdays. The chat doesn't have a guest, but we talk about the same topic. So we've already had some great discussions about branding a service, and today we're going to talk about it with Rob. I also have a special giveaway for my chat and my show. This week's giveaway, oh, I happen to have it right here. Oh, but it's mirrored. Oh, well. It's my lovely chat. Let's Talk About Brand mug with my logo on the back. And you can win that live viewers only. Sorry, replay viewers. We love you, replay viewers. In fact, let us know if you're a replay viewer. But live viewers only get a chance to win by typing #mug in the comments during today's show. All right, without any further ado, I'm going to bring on today's special guest, Rob. Woo! Rob, thank you so much for being on. And it's funny, you're only about 10 minutes away. Let me wave vaguely to the west.
I know. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. And it's really funny because last night we watched a good mutual friend of ours win Jeopardy.
That's
and
right.
now today you and I are talking. It's all connected. I know good peeps. All right. Yeah. So I would love Tim is like, I think this is the live broadcast. Yes, Tim, you're in the right place. And Dewey's in the future. Dewey says good evening from the future. Tim's in the future too. I get a lot of European love on this show.
Oh wow. Tell us what's my life like in the future.
You're international, friend. Let's see if we can get some Aussies on. Though it's like 2 or 3 in the morning for our Aussies, but you never know. All right, so Rob, tell us, first and foremost, you run a branding agency. Tell us what that means to you. If someone says to you, what the heck is a branding agency? What does Unleash My Beast Brand do? And is it Unleash My Beast Brand or your Beast Brand?
Yeah, so that's always interesting. You know, it is Unleash My Beast Brand because in my mind, the conceptualization of it was, when you say, Christina, when anybody says it, their brain hears my, right? Because it's not about my company. It's about you have a beast brand inside you, which is a brand that is the core of who you are, what makes you unique, and we're going to bring it out. So that's what we do. We essentially, what does my company do? Our belief is that every company has a brand living inside. And what we do is we coax it out. We reveal it to you. We have a whole process for doing that makes you unique in your industry, that helps make the competition irrelevant. And the whole beast brand idea came out of, look, you know, in athletics, you know, if you want to beast it on the field, you want to be a beast in your industry, it means laying it all out there, having no fear, moving ahead with who you are and no apologies, right? And always doing it with the goodness of helping people and adding value, but never apologize for who you are, because that is the one unique factor that everybody has.
I love that. And speaking of the one unique factor that everybody has, so how do you work with clients? I noticed that on your webpage, and of course we've talked, you know, personally, but I noticed that you specialize in branding service-based companies. So can we talk about what a service-based company means to you in terms of your clientele?
Yeah, you know, service-based companies, and it comes from a couple of different places. One of them is just easier to work with. I don't do products because there's a lot of logistics involved, and that's not something that I really do. And I focused on service-based businesses because I'm able to help them a lot easier. And what that really means is, you know, especially in this day and age, Christine, and much like yourself, you know, the whole onslaught of, because the internet put the power in people's hands, it became a very easy thing to do, right? To put yourself out there, develop your personal brand, right? So social media gave rise to the personal brand that was never really a thing prior to the internet. It was just
Oh, it
big
really
companies that
did.
had
Yeah,
brands.
it just blew it up. I mean, technically, there are people with personal brands. We just watched The Greatest Showman a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
P.T. Barnum certainly had a personal brand, but the fact is, this gave the power of that to everybody. Previously, in order to stand out, you had to, dump a ton of money in or whatever. Now, all you need is a smartphone with a camera to be a personal brand.
Yeah, but so to your point, it's been around, but it made it really mainstream and accessible.
Yeah.
And so when people became influencers on social media, and then everybody wanted to have the million followers that others had, how did you do it? And their answer was always like, well, you got to develop your personal brand. Like, I am who I am, and that's what people love about me. And it's true. But so that's kind of part of a service, right? So anybody who's a service-based business, right? If you're in the financial industry, if you're a personal trainer, fitness trainer, if you're a motivational speaker, you're a business consultant, you're offering a service. A lot of times you are the face of the business. You're the driving force. So it's easy to get to the heart of the brand when you're dealing with the person who's the driver of the business. And so in service-based, if you provide a service, and especially if you're the driver of the business, or maybe there's a couple of people that drive the business, that's who we ideally help. It's a lot easier and more beneficial to do and to help them do, because it's really just an idea of, let me help change your mindset to the branding mindset. You kind of know who you are, what you stand for. You kind of know who you want to serve. And these are all the things that I crystallize for businesses in a very strategic manner, so that they know what they're doing in their marketing to properly amplify the brand in the best light.
And you bring up a really good point, which is that if you are providing a service, you're the product. Ultimately, even if you're a bigger company, you're not a solopreneur like Christine Gritmon Inc. Even if you have multiple people, the fact is you're the product. Humans are the product. I just want to remind people, by the way, speaking of product, we do have a giveaway for live viewers here today of our show. If you're watching this live on Friday at noon, you can just type in, I'm mixing up my thingies here. There it is. You can type in hashtag mug, and we're going to be drawing that at about 25 past the hour. All right, so given that part of breaking through and presenting yourself as a brand and unleashing your beast brand, part of that is realizing that you do need to be a personal brand and you are the product. So, where do you tend to start with people who are maybe a little bit resistant to considering, service providers who are maybe resistant to considering themselves as a brand and putting themselves forth in that manner?
Yeah, Christine, I run into that a lot, because the average business owner is not necessarily the type of person who wants to be the face of the brand. Maybe their personality isn't as such. And honestly, in this day and age, you almost can't afford to not be the type of person to be able to get in front of the camera, or to speak, or to, get your photography session going, get headshots and, lifestyle shots, because people want to connect with people. They don't really want to connect with a company. So that's where there is this kind of this dovetail of, the personal brand / company brand, and where they overlap. In fact, what I always recommend is this, and here's where it gets really powerful, because if you don't amplify your personal brand, if you don't step forward and say, I'm the face of the company, and learn the skills to be able to project that, you put yourself at a disadvantage. Because here's the thing. I always recommend to people, and again, I do work with service-based businesses. A lot of them are solopreneurs, or maybe a couple of owners or founders, and they're working together. And I'll say, look, we're going to work on building your company brand. But what I want you to consider and do is build your personal brand alongside it. And the reason is for this. We live in a very kind of fickle economy in which people can have a startup and have phenomenal growth, and they can crash and burn, because at the speed at which things can grow, again, thanks to technology, we can grow things faster than ever before. But if you can't handle the growth, if something happens, if the economy like COVID destroyed businesses, there's one thing that nothing can ever be taken away from you, and that's your personal brand. So, if you build a company and it tanks for whatever reason, but you build your personal brand, you leverage your personal brand against anything you do, and you already hit the ground running. You already have a following and an audience who loves you for who you are and what you stand for. So chances are anything you do after that, they're gonna kind of follow you. So personal brand and company brand, to me, they go hand in hand. I always recommend that.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was just trying to get back to the right screen. Yeah, that is really key. So many people, as you point out, they're good at what they do, right? They're like, "Can I just be behind the scenes providing the service?" I marketers also have this. Marketers often say, "Well, I market other people. I don't market myself." In fact, I myself said that for like my first year in business, which is kind of hard to imagine now. But that's a really good point. Even if you are providing your service under a company, your personal brand is what's going to make people really latch on. Tim brings up a good point. He said the thing a lot of us don't appreciate is how much you get used to appearing in video and audio. However feeble your business success might be, if you get used to video and audio, that's an awesome skill in itself. Which brings me to the next question. You talk about how they need to build a personal brand, and I imagine you help brand the company as well. I'd like to hear, first of all, about how that kind of parses out in terms of how you build the company brand alongside the personal brand. But then, how does one build their personal brand with you? How do you help people to do that specifically?
Yeah, it's a great distinction to draw. And the fact is, I always start out with a strategy. And that strategy always speaks to, again, if you started the company and you're the driver of the company, chances are there's something in the company that came out of you. So what I do is in my strategy sessions, and we'll sit down for a couple hours and we get into in-depth conversations and I dig deep. I start asking questions that probably you never thought of before about your approach and why you do what you do. The whole idea behind getting into the person is that there's one thing that every person has, and here's a great tip. And next thing I say, I guarantee that you have something different that nobody else has. And every time I say that, people think like, when they look at themselves, Christine, in general, they think there's really nothing special about what I do. I mean, it's
Every,
what I do,
every time.
right? They do it every time because look, we're basically humble people when we're starting businesses. So we think, oh, we're nothing special, and we want to take the spotlight off of us. But I go, I promise you, without even knowing you, I'll tell you that I guarantee there's one thing you have that you can use that nobody else has, and you can start from there.
And
And
that
that's your
somebody
story.
else needs. If we're being all humble and feeling, like it's unbecoming somehow to put ourselves out there as a rock star, we are holding ourselves back from the people who need us. We're
Yeah,
keeping the good stuff to ourselves. That's no fun.
exactly. And the way you do that, Christine, is you tell your story. Like you connect with people. People connect to your story. I've talked with insurance agents, and nothing against insurance people, but they know this too. It's very competitive. It's not the most exciting thing in the world to talk about with people for the average person. So they go, how do I differentiate myself? I go, okay, you're all basically selling some similar products, and it's an industry that, it is what it is. But tell your personal story. How did you come to sell it? What does it mean to you? What are you really doing, and what do you believe in? As soon as you tell your story, you immediately connect with the person. And once you make that connection, that's where the magic happens. So you start with your story all the time, and you can build out your brand from there.
I work with a lot of realtors, and it starts there too, because of course, who doesn't know a bajillion realtors? But when it comes down to it, there's going to be some reason why someone should work with you over someone else. And it's important to be able to make that differentiation so that when someone's friend says, "Hey, here's what I'm looking for, but I'm trying to find a realtor," you're top of mind. Someone says, "Oh, I know the perfect realtor for you. It's so and so." And even just getting out there and being top of mind at all, even if it's not for anything special, if you're just kind of waiting for business to come to you, it's not going to happen.
Oh yeah.
One thing that I would love to hear from you is how you parse out when you're helping a company brand the company, but then you're also helping people brand their personal brands. What overlaps are there, and where do you draw lines in terms of how each should be expressed?
So in terms of what overlaps there, again, when we talk about the story, a lot of times, if you've noticed, I love to hear the stories of successful businesses, because a lot of times the successful business came out of the idea of one person who had an experience. They kind of had an experience they didn't like. And so they said, I want to vow to change that. So if I'm going to start my company, I want to do it my way. I want to do it this way. I don't want people to, get treated poorly, or I want to do the right thing. And so that personal story crosses over into the business's mission. And we know companies like all this that have social consciousness in mind, like Tom's shoes. You buy a pair of Tom's shoes and they donate a pair to somebody else. When you look at that, that's a brand, that's a story that can be told over and over, and it makes people feel good to be a part of that, knowing that they're making a purchase for themselves, but it's benefiting somebody else. So out of his story and his mission, he made the company's mission to give back. And so this is where it can cross over in terms of what do you stand for? Because if you ask people that kind of question, what do you stand for? That goes a long way, because it tells people where your convictions are, and they want to be able to get behind you, but you have to give them a reason. So the company's mission starts to come out of that, and that's where they overlap, where they distinguish themselves. When you look at something like Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, right? So when it started out, obviously the tech company, and it was faceless in the beginning, and then his face started to appear. He was not comfortable at all, and it was obvious. He wasn't the type that people could connect with, but he worked with somebody to kind of groom his image a little bit, to help him speak better. And you look at the Mark today versus the Mark from 20 years ago, right? Or 15 years ago, and it's an entirely different person. So he had to be the face of the brand, but he also had to be able to convey and communicate and connect with people. So that personal brand, right, makes the connection to the people, and it's attached to the company brand, which people can fall in love with, like Steve Jobs and Apple. I mean, he wasn't the best guy person-wise, but people liked his charisma when he presented, and they loved the products and they loved the company. So you kind of get that connection there as well.
And he believed in his company too. That's another key part. You brought up earlier about how a lot of people say, well, I had this experience with similar companies with similar services, and I decided when I started my company, I'd do it a different way. That's really great, because that shows that they've been in the consumer's shoes. It shows that it's a human who has been in your shoes, as opposed to just a company trying to get you to buy something.
Right.
The importance of story is just so key. Ed, who's another local here, he mentions that he hosts a weekly live stream. He has no problem being on camera, but he doesn't really do personal brand stuff. That's not really what he's trying to go for exactly. Mostly because he doesn't like social media very much. What are some relatively painless ways, Rob, that you've been able to kind of get people who are hesitant in that door of actually putting their personal brand forward a little bit if they're uncomfortable?
Look, I get it. And when I started my company, with no capital, basically starting it up, I knew I could leverage one free thing, and that was social media. Now, I can talk about what I do all day long, and I've developed some speaking skills, and I developed some video presence skills I did not have in the beginning. But I knew that I could leverage video for free, and particularly on LinkedIn, I just put out a video a week, 4 minutes long, 3 minutes long, where I could just talk about what I do. And anybody can talk about what they do, right? So you don't have to be have these special showmanship skills. It helps. But in the beginning, if you're just being real and you're answering your audience's questions about what you do, they'll connect with you, and they'll overlook that maybe you're not the best on-camera presence, but you can work on that. And I was terrible at it, Christine. I mean, I'm not great now, but when I spoke, it was, thank you. When I spoke, I was so low energy, I just had to crank it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you're not ready for that, look, if you can get on screen, here's what I recommend to people until you can ramp up some of maybe the camera presence skills and the camera confidence skills, is that, look, when I look at you, Christine, you're always in red. That's your color. Everywhere I see your presence, no matter what it is, whether it's a static post or a video or anything, your email, red is your color. Well, guess what my color is? It's no mystery what color my color is. It's orange, and you will never see anything to do with my company that is not orange. And so I tell people, look, it's simple. Don't overlook the simple things because they're very powerful. Adopt a color that you can call your own, that you can own. Now, I didn't create the color orange, but I own it. And everybody knows that in my industry. They associate color. It's a trigger in people's minds that they think of you. And that's what you're looking for. Branding is a series of elements. It's not just your logo like most people think. It's color, it's typeface, it's voice, it's tone, it's personality. It's so many things. It's the name of your company, the tagline of your company. It's all these things. But I can tell people, do this one thing. First of all, I urge you to get on camera and develop the basic skills, but just put a color behind everything you do that you never ever change, and it becomes a trigger to your brand.
Absolutely. Even my mugs have
Yeah,
this
there you go.
beautiful mug, by the way, which people can win. Live viewers, get your final entries in. We're going to be drawing it in just a few minutes. Type hashtag mug for one of these beautiful mugs. Which, yes, it's in reverse there on the camera.
Hey, reverse isn't bad. Sometimes different is better than better. So a backwards one gets the message more powerful.
It's not printed in reverse. It's printed right around. Same with my shirt. I'm actually wearing my Let's Talk About Brand shirt today. You can't really see it with the cropping. Tim points out, to some extent, we all have a personal brand. Like you have one already. It's just a matter of being deliberate about it and taking control of that image. So we actually didn't have a lot of questions on the Tuesday chat about brand for you, but we did have one, which I'll ask in just a minute. But Mark is pointing out that even though his colors are navy and blue, he's in camo so much they associate him with camo. Mark, I think that you're due for a rebrand. I think you got to incorporate the camo, or maybe both. You can have a palette. You don't need just one color. I know some people who have branded really well with a palette of harmonious shades, which they put together frequently, and then can use individually as well. In fact, I'm starting to consider expanding my palette a bit. I mean, it's red, of course. There's also some black and some white, but sometimes I get a little, tan in there. Sometimes there's a little navy blue, actually, because I like chambray. Trying to figure out how to work those things in, so I'm a little more flexible, but there's always the red. You're right.
But Christine, I mean, you bring up a good point. I'm a graphic designer for over 30 years. Yeah. So coming up with color palettes is something that I was trained to do. But when I talk about color, like you've done and I've done, look, I'm a designer, but I keep it simple, man.
Yeah.
You can adopt one color and own it. After you've established your brand, you can start developing more of a palette. But to keep it easy and simple in the beginning, you only need one signature color.
You're orange, but you're also gray. Like
orange
I also
and gray
consider gray part of your palette.
Yeah, those are the two colors that I go by, is orange and a dark gray, or any kind of a gray in some instances. But Tim brought up a good point. He said, just be intentional. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'll give one tip to people listening. Here's the one tip that can help build a strong brand that most people are not doing. And that is, you be intentional, but you always be branded. Do not leave the house. Like Christine's got the shirt, Christine's got the lipstick, Christine's got the earrings. That color is a trigger, right? So always go out branded. Never leave the house and not be branded, because it helps really to, number one, in your mind, you're always amplifying it. So you feel good about it. There's a sense of pride. But number two, every exposure to your brand should be a consistent one, because the whole idea is you want it sticking in people's brains. That's what a strong brand does. It sticks in people's brains so that when they're ready to purchase something that you sell, they think of you and not your competitor.
It's funny. A friend of mine just had a talk with me about this the other day. He said, you got to stop appearing anywhere not wearing your merchandise. You should have your merchandise on at all times. You should have it visible at all times. I don't. I kind of always feel like I'm rocking the red enough. I don't need to go to that level, but maybe I should maybe I should reconsider that. Dewey points out your personal brand is your personality, and that's very true. And I chose a color that I feel kind of goes with my personality, and it's my favorite. So that's the other thing. Like years before I was taking ownership of my personal brand, there was plenty of red going on. So we had a question that seems a little bit, it seems a little bit more like businessy than what we've been saying.
Sure, I love business.
John wants to know tips for those struggling with internal stakeholders asking you to overpromise for the sake of boosting the bottom line. So the way I imagine this this translate to branding is, what if someone's trying to get you to brand them as being, this amazing thing that maybe doesn't actually play to who they necessarily are. Like, I know we've talked about sort of the opposite way where people don't think they're a big deal and you have to convince them to be rock stars. Have you encountered the opposite where they sort of want to seem like a bigger deal than they are?
Ooh, so now we go to something that is talked about all the time, but is not always lived out. And I even hate using the word because it's so overexposed, but there's that authenticity that goes with it. Being genuine. I like to say real because real people understand. Look, we're from the Northeast, we're New Yorkers. It's like, hey man, just be real. We don't like it if you're not being real. But people in general like the real you. So putting on a brand, right? In other words, fabricating a brand that seems good for the sake of it seeming good, but it's not really coming out of a genuine place is the wrong approach, because what happens is when you show up, there's a disconnect. And sometimes it's on the subconscious level. You see, it's kind of like when you meet somebody for the first time and they seem nice and you walk away and your friend goes, what is about that person? You go, I don't know. There's something about that person. I don't know what it is, but I don't get a good feeling. Guess what? That happens with branding as well. People either make a connection and they go, oh, I'm just attracted to it. And that's what we do here at Unleash My Bees brand. That's what we do. We teach you how to have clients attracted to you. We're looking for the attraction. And so if it's not on, if you're not genuine, if there's no integrity, right, to the outward part of the brand, so the visuals and the messaging to the person that is conveying them, there's a disconnect, and you do not win fans that way. They don't know why, but they won't connect with you and they won't follow you.
Amen. Keep it real. And ultimately your interactions are what's going to produce the most lasting results anyway, more than any sort of branding stuff. All right, so it's actually time to announce our winner. Very exciting. And this week's winner is someone who joins us pretty much every week, which is great. So I'm glad he finally won something. It is Tim Lewis. So congrats, Tim. I'm going to be sending you your beautiful Let's Talk About Brand mug. And so, Rob, thank you so much for joining us today. You're awesome. Tell people where they can find you and why they should.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate you having me on this show. You can go to unleashmybeastbrand.com and you can follow me anywhere. All my links are down there, all my social. I have all major social media platforms covered. So one of the things you can do is you connect with me on LinkedIn at Robert Genovesi. But again, my links are on that page. It's like my hub. And check out the website. You get to learn more about what we do and how we do it. And if you're interested, I have a lot of education on my Unleash My Beast Brand channel on YouTube, where I teach people how to become a brander and build a brand. So if you're interested in tips on how to build a brand, I got lots of great information over there for free that I just want to help people win in business and build strong brands.
I love it. And that's why we get along so well. I love it. All right. And I was wrong, by the way. Tim has apparently won a prize before, but not a mug. Tim,
there you
of
go.
all people should absolutely have this mug. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Rob, for being here with us today. I can't wait until we are able to do live networking events again. I know that that's a main way that we saw each other. Hopefully we'll both be all safe soon so we can grab a coffee. Rob is in Blauvelt, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
And again, I'm Christine. I do this show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. And I also have a Tuesday Twitter chat called Let's Chat About Brand. And it's always on the same topic as the Friday interview show. Next Tuesday's topic is going to be about branding with books. A lot of us know people who have really emphasized their personal brand and gotten it out there with books that have really made a big difference in enhancing their thought leadership, enhancing their known factor. Very important stuff. And we're going to be talking about that with Mitali Deperkekshta, and she is an expert at that. She has written her own books, and she also helps others to establish their authority and their brand with books of their own. So definitely join us next Tuesday for the Twitter chat, which does not include a guest, and next Friday for our live interview with Mitali. Thanks very much. Bye.